And I went home and there was blood on my clothes and stuff. And my mum was like, what the fuck is this? Like, you know what's going on?
Right.
And he used to lock me in the house, post drugs through the letterbox, no key to get out. So there was no food. It was just drugs. So, and I mean, I threw pint glasses at him. I tried to punch him. I tried to get him off me. But he was a fully grown ass man, and I'm this little... I did that because I was trying to block out this horrendous thing that I was keeping inside. And when you keep these things inside, they grow. You're not talking about them to anyone. No one knew.
Guys, welcome back to the Murad Rai podcast. We have another legend from Married at First Sight. We have Thomas Hartley in the building. How are you?
Iconic. How are you?
I'm doing well. Iconic. I love it when Tom claps as well at the back. It's
I'm
just
glad
so
that
funny.
you clapped, Tom, because I should be appreciated and valued. I am.
Exactly. And this is a safe space.
Every space is safe where I am.
This is a safe space for you.
Good.
So you can, speak about what you want to speak about. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well today.
You came all the way from Liverpool.
I did. I do watch you on YouTube. I think you're marvellous.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there's room and space for this sort of podcast, and I want to, happily contribute to it.
Right. And I feel like you have great stories because I like to interview people who've been on reality shows, but not just about their journey on a reality show, but also about who they are, humanize them, and things that you have gone through that people may not know of.
Of course. And I think when you interview someone who's 21 from Love Island, sometimes they haven't had that life experience and lived that sort of journey where, like, I'm 32 and I didn't do reality TV until I was 31. So I've had a lot more living to do, and I'm not patronising anyone. People have all been through different things, but I think when you're young, if I could go back in time, I would have done it sooner rather than later.
Okay. And why do you think that?
I just think that there would have been more opportunity for me to flourish in a market where people start when they're 18.
Right.
And I'm 32.
Right.
Do you know it? Like,
I know what you mean, and I also feel like I understand what you mean by when people from shows like Love Island who are young, coming out, they have an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And you can't really get to that level.
No. Because there's no the time isn't on your side the way that it is when you're from Love Island. And you can pull and tweak and mess with yourself as much as you want, but you're still 32.
Right.
It's true.
It is
There's
true.
a market for everyone, isn't there?
There's a market for everyone.
Boo-hoo man, it's not going to give me a brand deal right now.
I mean, you never know. With
And
the
to
pink
be
jumper.
honest, no offence, but it's no.
It's a no for you. So where do you shop then?
Zara,
yeah.
Reese, and then obviously I get things made.
I love that for you. Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
How, looking back on your journey, do you have any regrets with it? Because it's quite intense to get married to somebody and then you have like your home stays with them.
The manipulator, not me. And I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm bored of you.
It's a lot.
My outlook from going into it was I've had relationships that have failed massively before. And I've always wanted to get married, and by sort of 30 I was thinking I should be married with kids now. Like that was my sort of expectation. And if you look at different cultures across the world, arranged marriages work. If my mum could pick my husband, I'd have a successful marriage, and I can safely say that. It's not for everyone, but I do believe in the capability of an arranged marriage. It does happen, and
right.
It's successful. There's people who are married their whole life from arranged marriage, so why not take that chance and put your sort of life in somebody else's hands?
Did you enjoy the experience?
I enjoyed when the experience ended and I could watch it back.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like having a huge mirror held up to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. The personal growth from it, I enjoyed. The actual experience, no, because it didn't meet my expectations in terms of what I anticipated it would be. Obviously, I went through a huge amount of drama on the show.
Yeah.
I was the standout character. So, yeah, it was tough.
I mean, you were.
Facts.
Yeah.
I'm not egotistical in any possible way, but if enough people tell you that you're the star of the show, you're the star of the show.
And it's funny because reality TV wants people like that.
Of course.
But then when you say it yourself, it becomes an issue.
It can become an issue. And I think what issue I don't have is that, I do say it as it is. I am controversial. Some people don't like that. But at the end of the day, authentic is what authentic does, isn't it? And when people watch me back, especially from my city, they love me. In Liverpool, I am very loved.
That's good.
And I love that they back me and I back them, and I love my city and I'm proud of it. And, you know, so that part of it I loved. The part of it where I'm like a sloppy, messy drunk who's calling everyone a... Can I say any word? It's not feasible to anything productive. And like, you know, I've made my personal apologies. I'm not going to apologise again. You know, I've made mistakes. I've done all them things. We all do. He used an out-sing cast the first stone, and no one can, because we all make mistakes. We all say and do stupid things.
As long as you can learn to apologise.
And yeah, of course. And the first protocol for me is I can own my shit and I can apologise. And, you know, if I've ever upset anyone at any point in my life, even my worst enemies, I am sorry. I don't want anyone to... I don't want to harbour resentment for people, and I certainly didn't want them to harbour it for me.
So when you said you looked at, you know, you're holding a mirror up, what did you feel like you learned? Or like you said, that growth and, you know, looking back at these arguments that you were having.
I learned not that I shouldn't drink alcohol.
Okay.
And I learned that I was just like erratic, a little bit needed to work on my mental health. I thought I was in a better place going into it. And I thought I would have been able to handle it better than I did, the situation. But I did feel very isolated. I think the biggest mistake that they sort of made was the other contributors was they thought that because I was common and I was from, you know, a lot of these had experience in TV and media in that sort of realm. I had 300 followers. I was a nurse. I applied. I wanted a husband. I wasn't approached by anyone. I was reared by the show to go on. I wasn't like aware. I didn't have an agent, none of them things. So I think that the biggest mistake they made was thinking that they would be able to sort of create a narrative and I would be a scapegoat in some sort of way.
Right.
Because then I was like, fuck no. And then that's when I kicked off. So a lot of it was reactive, and then I was like a dog with a bone and should have just shut the fuck up, really.
Right. But I feel like there were many moments where that didn't take place.
Of course.
But it was good. I mean, like, as an audience, you want to be entertained by something.
Absolutely. Listen, we do not watch these shows to see a happy ending, and I don't care what anyone says.
I think nobody watches Married at First Sight or Love is Blind, Love Island, all these shows that you want entertainment.
You want the drama.
You want the drama.
Because then it makes you feel better about your own life.
Right. Projection.
Yeah. You watch like these shows where people are being really like shocking, and we watch things that make us feel better about our lives. I still do it now. And when you've been in a show and you watch one, you're like, I know they've had to do that scene 100 times, because you do.
Right.
I done my vows 4 times.
Right.
I was like, this is bullshit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not, even though it's, people say, is it scripted? No, it's all real. But you do sometimes have to reenact the situation again.
Right, just for that the cameras get what they need to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot though, isn't it?
You're naive going into it. There's no handbook for going into it, and there's no handbook for coming out of it.
Would you do it again?
For a lot of money.
Yeah.
And to be honest, let's see the viewing figures this time round and see if they can match the cast that they had. But if they invite me back, I will be asking for a check.
Definitely.
Because you don't get a check the first time round.
Oh, you don't?
No. And they give you loss of earnings, and that for someone who lives in Liverpool does not equate to much in London.
Correct.
Which you would know. The north and south. It's life. I expect that. I'm not saying that's wrong or right. You know, a house that we could get a 4-bedroom house for what you get a 1-room.
Right.
Yeah. You know?
I can definitely
relate to that. Yeah. So and then your options. I mean, we were living in Canary Wharf. It was Marks and Spencer's or Waitrose. It was a bit like, well, where's Aldi?
Right.
You know?
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
The arguments that you have on a Married at First Sight, and, you know, especially with the guy that you're with and everything like that. I know it sounds dumb, but like, what was going through your mind whilst you were having these conversations? Did you feel triggered?
Totally.
Right.
Totally triggered.
By what would you say?
Just rejection, I think.
Yeah.
I've always lived with an element of feeling rejected by society. Anyone who had come out and lived openly gay until they were maybe 35, 40.
That's crazy.
It's not London.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not.
And you know, you do. So to give you an example, those silver boots when I walked out, did you see that scene? Yeah. Okay, so I went to Tesco with them on.
Okay.
And there was people from all different creeds, colours, cultures, life. No one bats an eyelid. If I'd done that in Liverpool, it wouldn't go down as well. And I love Liverpool, and it's friendly and it's tolerant and it's kind, and the people would, you know, always help you and smile at you and all of them things. But a lot of it is they live within that societal norm of being a straight white person. And anything outside of that is questionable.
Interesting. I mean, it's not surprising.
No.
And I feel like a lot of people may not be aware of it who don't live in outside of London.
No.
There was one scene on the show where the guy's sister, I believe, just kept asking you questions.
It wasn't his sister.
She was.
That was his best friend, aka stalker, from what I would appear to be, because she was just like a dog with a bone.
So many questions.
But just, my mother was there and couldn't get a word in edgeways, and I did think, shut the fuck up. Now, I was trying to eat a piece of beef, and it took me about 40 minutes to fucking eat it because I was talking while it was in my mouth, because she was literally there. But again, with her, I just think, she's got kids and things, go and concentrate on them.
Yeah.
Why are you bothered? He's a fully grown ass man.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, yeah, I can't be doing with all that.
I think trying to look for a moment on camera.
Well, she got it.
Yeah.
She trended.
It was just...
Not for the right reasons, obviously, unfortunately for her. But, you know, she's got to face the repercussions of her actions the way that everyone else does.
Correct. Throughout your journey on the show, like, you said the word as well that I was going to use, like, you know, you can be quite reactive or sometimes defensive or triggered and stuff like that. And I always wonder, and I had this conversation with Alexis, because she was on the show and I asked her, you know, there are moments where she was reactive, and she said, if you knew my past, you would know why I'm the way that I am. Yeah. And nobody comes out the womb acting X, Y, Z. No. Everyone goes through situations.
They do.
So I wanted to get to the root of her story, and it was incredible. So I feel like there's a lot behind who you are, because we don't know. Well, I don't know much about it outside of just the Thomas Hartley on the show.
Yeah.
You've spoken about it here and there.
More so now, recently. So you've sort of struck while the iron's hot, really, because prior to this, I'd come off a podcast that's very light-hearted and fun, the Bags podcast, which I'm sure you've seen. It's everywhere. They're doing pretty well for themselves. They're lovely. And that's all really light-hearted and fun. And that's great. And it's, you know, but there is so much more to than me sitting there and entertaining people and making them laugh. And I know I'm funny and I get all that, but that is not my defining characteristic. There's also a very strong-willed sort of person behind the visibility of funny and clowning around and making people laugh.
Definitely.
And these shows, you know, you come off them and someone's watched you for an hour and they think they know everything about you. And I can rest assured that anyone knows absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and when I saw you on the show, when I saw Alexis on the show, and anybody else on any other shows, I always feel like, why are they reacting the way that they are? Why are they more sensitive or triggered, you know?
But that's because you're intelligent, isn't it?
Maybe. You know?
Yes, it is.
And I want to get to the root of what maybe people did to you, or the way you know you shape your view of reality based on your own experiences. And I feel like, you know, of course, I don't know, I just find it very interesting. Yeah, I find it so interesting, people on reality TV. So to get to the root of it. So if you want to share an experience
at all, I mean, I was born in Liverpool.
Right.
We had absolutely nothing, but we wouldn't have known as children. We were never led to believe. My mum and dad worked full time. Nobody looked after us. They worked their hours around us. I was allowed to be whoever I wanted to be. I was allowed to just flourish, and you know, there was no prejudice in my home ever. No racism, no homophobia, no nothing. Everyone, you know, they're just very liberally minded. And, you know, not to say that Scousers aren't like that, but sometimes, you know, the media scaremongers people into believing certain narratives about different groups of people. And we just were always taught never to really believe in that. So, lovely, blah, 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 go to school. And I always found myself being that child who was like, I didn't know where I fit in, because I was so eccentric and so like hyper feminine maybe at times, and then masculine at times, and it was just really contradictory to me. And I was always allowed to just be who I was at home. So going to school, and there was a clear difference, especially in the 90s, of this is boys and this is what girls do, and there's no space in between. And I think, like, you know, I was fine through school. Kids are innocent when they're that young. They didn't really know. But for me, personally, I just didn't really know where I fitted in. And I think from a very young age, my parents realised that I was different. So they worked hard, saved up, sold the house and uprooted me and my brother and moved us to a very affluent area
Okay.
so that I could go to a school where there was more knowledge, more tolerance, more acceptability, more education, so that it was going to be less damning on me, which is what they believed would happen. Obviously, if they hadn't been able to foresee that I was going to be the type of person that I am now, they wouldn't have moved, because I'm not scared of anyone. But at that point, I was only a kid. So moved to that area, lovely childhood, reached the age of puberty, and naturally kids call you a faggot, they call you a queer, this is not natural, but they spit on you, you know, all of those horrible, awful things that I think that is not isolated to my minority group. I think that happens across all minority groups, and it's relative. So, you know, one person could be called a faggot and it doesn't faze them. One person could be called a faggot and it's the end of their world. You know, but for me at that time, I was like, I'm not. You know, you don't know what, I didn't know. But then when I was 15, I come out to my parents, I come out in school, and it just got worse from there, really. A lot of, like, you know, when I was socialising with my friends outside school, boys would throw drinks on me, you know, like when people were drinking on the park and stuff. They would pour drinks on me, they would punch me, just abusive shit like that. And I'm this, like, 6 stone wet teenager with acne, sticky out ears.
Yeah.
You know, just like insecure ball of hormones and mess. And kids can be cruel and they don't realise the impact that it has on you. Kids are like that. I'm not justifying it. It's awful and it's cruel and there should be consequences for it. But it was what it was. You know, I was an easy target. And then I just started to deal with it with humour and making people laugh.
Okay.
And then that's where that sarcastic, dry, quick-witted Scouse humour comes from, because I turned them, being a target to them, into making them laugh, so that I was infectious. They wanted to talk to me because it would make them laugh.
It's like a coping mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're funny, you're flamboyant, you're all of them things, and that all come from sort of going, well, I'm going to make you laugh.
Right.
Because even if you don't like me, you're going to laugh. And I did. I made them laugh. Left school, went to be a hairdresser, very conventional.
Yeah.
You know, hated it. And then I was just living my best gay life. I was going out, I shouldn't have, I was 16. But I was going out and, like, I was having the best time surrounded by all these men. And it was like everything, because I didn't know any other gay people.
Yeah.
And then you're kissing all these boys, and it was just the best thing ever. And one night I went out with my friend, and this was a real defining moment in my life. I was really drunk. I think, you know, would you drink?
I don't drink.
Right. I don't drink now, but we'll get on to that. But I was drinking, and you know when someone will have told you this before, but you come out and the fresh air hits you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And my friend left me. And I was 16 in town in the gay area, and I was needed away. And I was up the top of this street, so we went in this side alley to have a wee. And I was so drunk, like really drunk. And I just felt this hand on the back of my neck. And like he pushed me face up to this. It was raining, it was horrible. It was all cobbles and mud and bins. And you couldn't see from this street into that side alley because there was like one of those industrial bins. And he pushed me face up to the wall, and my pants were obviously down because I was having a wee. Turned me round, and it was this old man, and I can still see his face now, like when I think about it.
Yeah.
And he was sexually abusive, and he was. And I'm trying not to be shallow, but it was like the most disgusting face that you can think of.
I mean,
right in your face, trying to put his tongue in your mouth, and just really horrible, vile attack that, like, I was so young and I was so happy, and I feel like all of that happiness was just sucked out of me. It was gone. It was just the worst thing that could have ever happened to someone who had been through all of that already and felt like they were set free. Do you like when the caterpillar comes out of the cocoon and they're a butterfly? That's how I felt. And then it was like being stamped on, because everything I thought about my community being this free space where I could be myself for the first time in like my whole life was gone. like that. And it's like rejection again. And I just hid it. And I went home and there was blood on my clothes and stuff. And my mum was like, what the fuck is this? Like, you know, what's going on?
Right.
And I was like, oh, foul. You know, I just hid it. I completely hid it. And then from then, I sort of started partying a lot more. And I think that, you know, looking back now, I can sort of dissect it and say, well, I did that because I was trying to block out this horrendous thing that I was keeping inside. And when you keep these things inside, they grow. You're not talking about them to anyone. No one knew.
They manifest and
it does. It's like a ball of like horribleness
weird.
that just grows.
Yeah, it just grows.
And it consumes you all the time. And then you associate drink with it just giving you lose your inhibitions. The promiscuity starts. You start sleeping around. I started using sex as a crutch. It was what gave me like that. Do you know approval from people?
Yeah.
From approval, I was just. I had no self-worth at all.
Like you become a people pleaser.
I become like, I need you to show me, this is how you show me that you love me.
Yeah.
This is how a man shows me that they love me. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then 21, a friend of mine roofied me with an ecstasy pill.
Okay.
And I was high as a kite, obviously, but I didn't really know what it was. And that night they were snorting cocaine, so I started snorting cocaine. And then from there, it was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, drink drugs. And then I got in a relationship. He loved drugs as well. So it was like this relationship of every weekend drinking drugs. And then I left him. Come home, spent some time, was clean, sober, till I was about 22. And then I met a man who was 10 years older than me. My parents hated him. They thought it was the worst decision that I'd ever made. And I was like, no, fuck you. I'm going to rebel against you. Moved miles and miles and miles away. And once he had me living with him, he would pick me up and drop me off at work. And then of a weekend, he worked away. So we worked Friday, Saturday and come home Sunday. And he used to lock me in the house, post drugs through the letterbox, no key to get out. So there was no food. It was just drugs. So I just did it. And then on the Sunday, when he used to come home, at first he didn't do this. I was back and forth to my parents in dispute with them about it, and he showed me this amazing life. He had a lovely job, and I was having a lovely time. And I went to live with him, obviously, as I said before, and then that's when it started. I started to see those little red flags and little gaslighty things and stuff like that. And I'd left my safety blanket of my parents to be with this man, and I was like, no, I'm going to prove them wrong. I've got to prove them wrong. So he started to... I didn't want to have sex with him. Like, I just didn't. It was because it was... We did, obviously, at first. It was great, you know what I mean? I was having a lovely time with him. I felt safe with him. But it started to be forceful, and it started to be aggressive. And again, I'm in my early 20s here. So I refused. But once I was high from them days of taking drugs, because he would ring the drug dealer from work and have drugs delivered to the house and posted through the letterbox. Or he would text me like, where are you? Send me your location, blah, 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 all that shit. And then he would come home and he would sexually abuse me then, but in the end I was just conditioned to it.
Yeah.
So I used to just literally take my clothes off and lay on the bed on the Sunday because I knew.
That's the perspective you have of what you need to do.
I just knew it was going to happen, so I might as well not face it. And I mean, I'd threw pint glasses at him. I tried to punch him. I tried to get him off me, but he was a fully grown ass man, and I'm this little twinky kid.
Yeah.
And
I feel like people don't see, if you were a girl at that age, people will really highlight the difference between a young girl and an older man.
100%.
But because if it's a young
man
boy
on man
with a grown man, I feel like when it's a young boy and an older man, people don't realize the difference of like grooming, coercion, or like telling them to do things.
Well, eventually he decided that he was going to move, because we lived, I'm not going to say where we lived, but he decided that he was going to move to the city that I live in. And I was like, okay. So we moved, and I told my, I think it was either like my friend, cousin, auntie, someone, what was going on. And they told me mum, and she come and got me. And I went home, and I got clean. And for a long time, he stalked me. He used to turn up at work. He used to turn up at my gym. I had to leave my job and all that sort of stuff. It was really bad. And then I was clean for a long time. Really long time. Really fit in the gym twice a day. Like really, really healthy.
That's good.
Oh no. It wasn't, because I relapsed.
Right.
And then it was worse drugs, it was more drink, it was more sex, because I'd never been to a therapist.
Right.
I'd never spoke about it still.
Boys don't, you know.
Is it a prideful thing?
I think it's a prideful thing, and I think it's about, you know, masculinity as well that we create. We're meant to be the strong people, or, you know, you can't joke around with your friends about it.
I think more so for me, because I don't resonate with masculinity. I find it to be relatively toxic at times, to be honest, at the moment especially. But I resonate more so with being inspired by women, because I think that they've always got the lower hand, and they're the ones that fight for what they want.
Right.
Whereas men are privileged,
Right.
aren't they? We all are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for me, it was more so the lack of, if I'd have gone to the police, which I never did, by the way, ever.
Okay.
They would not have had the resources or understanding to be able to deal with it. And the reason that I would say that is because I actually told a therapist that I had been raped, and they minimalised it and said to me that it was just forceful sex.
Wow. That's crazy.
And in that vulnerable state that I was in at the time, you then start going, oh,
Wow.
maybe it is forceful sex.
What?
Maybe I was wrong. But now, with the understanding that I've got now, I know it was rape. I mean, if I grabbed you now in a sexual capacity with the intention, what's that?
That's right. Yeah.
And no means no.
Correct. It's very interesting how, you know, there are the sexual abuse that you went through, especially when you were 16 and with the guy in the alleyway, and then that, you know, then it happens again with somebody else. And it's like that definitely impacts you subconsciously in a different way that you don't even know.
Yeah.
You can't even realize it until you're in your 30s, maybe 40s. Then you look back at and you got therapy and etc.
And I think the sad part, I've had therapy now.
It's great.
Cognitive behavioural.
Perfect.
And then EMDR, which is the light therapy, which is where you relive the trauma.
Really
And I've also recently been on a spiritual awakening, which was like a hands-on healer, really intense spiritual Reiki sort of stuff, which for me personally has worked. I know that it's not for everyone, and that's fine. But for me, it has worked. You know, music therapy, things like that, just stuff that I love to do. I've started to focus my energy towards that and try and heal that way.
I think that's really good. I don't think that there are a lot of boys that speak up about their sexual abuse.
Well, I'm
guys.
actually, funny you should say that, meeting a documentary maker next week.
You're making a documentary.
I'm going to make a documentary about it.
Love that.
So I will be looking for contributors who, well, we can hide their identity, obviously, if they want to. But it would be nice to sort of hear from people from the LGBTQ community, people from, you know, different cultural communities, every community, the human community. Because I feel like it happens a lot within different cultures for different reasons, and it is hidden for different reasons, and there's a lot to dive into.
It's so scary.
It's scary.
Because there's a magnitude of effects and impacts that can have if you even choose to speak on it from a cultural background. There's just like you get silenced.
Yeah.
Immediately.
We know that those corrupt things go on within religion, within culture, within whatever. And a lot of it is to protect pride. We need to get rid of the pride thing.
Right.
Because it just is toxic. People should just be allowed to be free and live as they feel, providing that they're not hurting anyone else.
It's just so easy said than done.
I know it is.
It's crazy,
and
isn't
we
it?
live the way it is, not the way we want it to be, unfortunately.
Right, precisely. Because I know of some people who, like from the Middle East, who would want to speak on it, but if they even dare, they would just be dead.
There's no way. Like, you know, another thing that a lot of people don't know about me is I'm massively active and sort of love activism, and I love speaking up for different communities, whether it's the trans community, whether it's the Muslim community, whether it's the Hindu community, whether it's the black community. Those people are all human beings that deserve to be treated the same way.
Correct.
And there's so much hate in the media for every single person outside of the realm of white, heterosexuality, cisgenderism. I'm not here for that. And if that makes me controversial and blacklisted from telly forever, then fuck you. I don't want to be on your programme anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm always going to say what I think.
Which you should.
It's my duty.
I feel
I
like,
think.
do you think that's also like a coping not coping mechanism, but like an after effect of the abuse that you've gone
Yes.
through? That you
I
feel
think
like
it's a strength.
that you want to speak out because you were silenced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially for those who've always got the lower hand.
Precisely. And I'm so interested in how humans become and act and react based on the abuse that they've gone through and how they are in their 20s and 30s and why they could be reactive or why they could be dramatic or could be more closed off or silenced and whatever. So
one thing I've definitely learned is that my approach has changed.
Okay.
So I don't raise my voice anymore. Really. I don't see the point.
Right.
It's just empty noise.
Right.
Like, it's much easier to sit down and have a conversation with someone and to maybe, we all raise our voice. It's human nature. But I don't need to go in all guns blazing all the time.
Yeah.
It's not conducive to anything.
Definitely not conducive, but I also feel like it's hard to get to that point.
People stop listening.
It's really hard to get to that point of when you are somebody who becomes reactive and becomes XYZ based on what you've gone through and then to like rewire your brain.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of brain trauma.
And don't get me wrong, there will be times when I will still react that way.
Precisely.
I'm not a perfect person and never will be. I don't want to be.
I feel like you've been through a lot though.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we all have.
Yeah. The sexual abuse.
Oh, yeah.
Like the
that's
domestic,
terrible, isn't it?
the alcoholic.
Awful. Well, so I'm sober today. What day are we on? 10 days today.
That's really good.
So I've openly come out that I am an alcoholic recently and maybe a drug addict. Not really. It wasn't every day. What it is in social situations I couldn't socialise without alcohol and drugs.
What? You don't have to tell me what drugs
cocaine. But prior to that, I've took a lot of drugs.
Right.
So I've never done heroin or meth, which I know is quite big up here.
Right.
It's not, you don't hear about that where I'm from. So ecstasy, GHB, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
I've done that maybe once or twice. Cocaine, ketamine. Never liked weed. I only like the uppers, not the downers.
Right. It's interesting.
It's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I feel like you've been through a lot in your life and I feel like you've overcome a lot and you're now on this path.
I feel really good.
To stop alcohol as well. And I feel like it's very empowering and I feel like you should be very proud of yourself. And hopefully young boys who could be watching this, can be inspired. Maybe some boys from Liverpool as well.
Just
especially.
Don't be that little gay kid that chooses chemicals. Like, just don't be that kid.
Yeah.
Like, go and talk to your mum and dad or talk to me. My DMs are always open for these people. And I have so many people who are talking about coming out and living their authentic life.
Yeah.
And I just from all different cultures. And I am so glad that even if one person feels that I'm a safe space for them, to be honest, a job done.
That's what you want, really.
I don't care. I don't care about fame. Not asked.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like I love doing interviews because watching on my device site and then having you here, this is a different
This is me, isn't it?
And this is you. This is, an unedited version.
And the thing is with me, which is obviously, again, controversial, I will not conform to celebrity life. I'm not going to do that.
So what do you mean by celebrity life?
Well, I'm not going to bullshit everyone and start pretending that oh my God, I love you so much, you're amazing, I've met you for an hour.
Yeah.
Like, calm down.
Have you experienced that event?
Every single person. To be honest with you, the ones who are actually genuinely famous, the ones with talent who are like Hollywood stars, they're really nice. Some of them, I've met some of them and I'm not going to name any names. They're from a specific show that's on now. They go to an island. I've never met people with a more inflated ego. And they're way past the sell-by date. They're way past any sort of talent. They haven't got any. And they're deluded. It's absolute a cesspit of delusion. It's very odd.
And you meet them at events? Or
Well, I don't really go to... So this is another thing that I find... It makes me want to bore. Do you know what that means? Gag.
Yeah.
Why would I go to an opening of a clip-in fucking Fringe? I've got no hair. Why am I going to go to the opening of like a tin of beans or something?
Yeah.
And some of these, at the minute they hear an envelope go, they're there. I just think, what is wrong with you? Why are you at that? If you went and asked the crew on Married at First Sight, I knew every fucking person's name. including the woman who was walking around picking tissues up. Because how do you know that she's not going to win the lottery and end up as a millionaire? You treat everyone. What goes up can always come down, and what goes down can always go up.
Absolutely.
You treat everybody the same with respect.
Scary industry, isn't it?
Really, really delusional, toxic, and corrupt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I find? The people behind the camera are usually really just wonderful, fabulous, eccentric, arty people. And they're the sort of people I'd want in front of the camera. The ones who are in front of the camera look like they've had a balloon full of ego stuck up their arse and deflated. Because honestly, I'm like, you are a cardboard cutters. You say, listen, I've never been very good at anything. I'm not a particularly talented person. I can sing, I can't dance, and I can make anybody laugh. But other than that, I mean, like, I'm not like someone who, you couldn't go like, oh my God, supermodel. Because I didn't want to be. But I wouldn't fit into that. I don't fit into the society. So brands aren't that interested, which is fine. Because I mean, I don't want to wear your fucking fake tan anyway. It smells of biscuits. But I'm not a good influence, and I wouldn't be a good, I'm not easy for telly because they don't know what I'm going to say. And I think they want someone who's like,
right.
Because people look at them and think they're pretty and all that, and that's great. But if you want a record-breaking show like mine was, you need people like me.
It's true.
Big Brother was successful when it wasn't influencers, when it was people off the ground.
Are you excited for it to return?
I've applied.
Oh, really?
I don't think they'll have me on, but I have applied.
Because you weren't married at first sight?
I just don't think that really equates to anything, though. Someone could have filmed my wedding and it went viral on TikTok. I just married someone on the telly.
Yeah.
I did not come out of that saying, look at me, I deserve a BAFTA. However, if the show does win a BAFTA, I will take sole responsibility for that. Thank you.
But I do think you'd be going to Big Brother now that you mentioned it.
I'd love to do Big Brother.
I'd love that for you.
I'd love that for me. I'd love that for you.
Can you imagine? Me, Big Brother.
You're beautiful and you're interesting, and why wouldn't you go on Big Brother?
I would rather interview them Big Brother.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. So if I go on Big Brother and I win, you can have the first interview, okay?
I'd love that.
Deal,
baby.
If I like you, that was a really bad high five.
Thank you.
In fact, I'll give you this. This is an anti-anxiety bracelet that I brought for you today.
Did you actually?
Yeah. It's from a friend who makes the jewellery, yeah.
Wow.
And if I win Big Brother, then I will come back and you can give me that back.
Okay. Deal. Well, ITV production do watch this, so hopefully they will.
Well, you know what, ITV, they put me forward for dinner dates, and again, you didn't put me on that neither, so you're lost, honey. It's a wonderful podcast.
I think it is.
And I think you are a very kind and easy to talk to, and it's interesting, and it's safe space energy, and I feel extremely comfortable.
Thank you so much. I really value that.
Yeah, well, you're great, honestly. Don't stop this, because there's so many stories, and anyone who's got a story to tell, this is definitely the place to tell it.
Yeah, I've got many people asking to tell their stories.
And you know what? You're giving platforms to people who need to talk, and that's what it's about.
I feel like there is, because there's not many people.
You're great, honestly, and I love your jacket.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Guys, Thomas's credentials are all going to be in the bio below. Please go and check him out and his stuff. He was on Married at First Sight, one of the most talked about contestants from his season. The most talked about. I know that's right. Subscribe to the channel, check out the podcast, and we'll catch you guys soon for another video.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sweet. That was good. Yeah, it was a good conversation.
It was a great conversation.
It was like heavy but also lightweighted.
You're very easy to talk to. I hope you get what else of it, what you want to get out of it.
Definitely.
Because
I feel like it was just, I want like...
Are you a journalist?
No.
You should write.
I just like... And like, I don't even script my interviews. I write no questions.
Tell you, your voice is very calm and you're very easy to talk to, honestly.
That's really good.
I was nervous, but I don't feel nervous at all. You're marvellous, honestly. Don't stop doing it.